Hi, you're listening to Stephan Livera podcast, a show about Bitcoin. So, how does the network coordinate Bitcoin upgrades amongst the miners and the Bitcoin mining pools? Alejandro De La Torre, VP of Poolin, one of the large Bitcoin mining pools, joins me on the show to talk about his efforts in helping to coordinate this upgrade, his website, taprootactivation.com, as well as some of the learnings from 2017, the SegWit activation, and we talk about some of the concepts around an MASF, miner activated soft fork. We talk a little bit about the distribution of network hash rate, future soft fork upgrades and what they might look like, as well as some of the recent China stuff as well. Just for your context also, listeners, this episode was recorded 22nd of May 2021. That was a Saturday morning in Sydney time. And just so you understand a little bit about the numbers that we're talking about were obviously correct at that time. This show is brought to you by swanbitcoin.com, the best place to auto-stack your Bitcoin in the US with incredibly easy setup and low fees. So they are available in all US states for individuals, and they are actually available internationally via Swan Private for high net worth investors or business investors. Swan's service is built around regular stacking, but with support for smash buys also. So this is the place to send your pre-coiner and new coiner friends to get them to set up their auto-stacking plan, especially at times like this. When you have your DCA plan set up, then it makes it a lot easier to accumulate a lot of sats during the dips. So Swan Bitcoin are Bitcoin only, and they're focused on teaching people to self-custody. So this is the place to send your friends and family, or for you if you're getting started with Bitcoin. So go to swanbitcoin.com/Livera, and Swan will drop $10 of free Bitcoin in your account when you become a member. Lend at HODL HODL is a peer-to-peer Bitcoin-backed lending platform where you can lend or borrow crypto globally and anonymously. Lend at HODL HODL is a way to earn extra income on your stablecoins by lending them out at an average of 25% APR. On the other hand, if you have Bitcoins and you need some liquidity, well, now you don't have to sell, you can borrow against your Bitcoins. And the cool thing here is you will still hold one key in the 2 of 3 multi-sig controlling your Bitcoin during the loan, since HODL HODL does not hold your funds. Lend at HODL HODL allows peer-to-peer lending and borrowing directly between users. So on this platform, you set your own terms and put up offers depending on how long you want to borrow or lend and the interest rate. Go to lend.hodlhodl.com. Are you looking to get involved in Bitcoin mining? Compass is an online marketplace making it easier for everyone to mine Bitcoin and enhance the Bitcoin network's security. Compass helps you buy your own ASIC and secure hosting at great facilities around the world. For years we heard that mining was only profitable if you're investing tons of money. Compass is making it easier for everyone to tap into economies of scale and access reasonably priced hardware and cheap industrial power rates instead of relying on our residential power rates, which might not be competitive. If you're unsure about how to get started with mining Bitcoin, Compass offers hardware and hosting bundles, so you don't have to have advanced technical knowledge. You can quickly get started mining Bitcoin with hardware you own. Go to compassmining.io to start mining Bitcoin today. On to the show. Alejandro, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
So Alejandro, I've been trying to get you on for a little while, but it just kind of hasn't happened. But I really wanted to chat with you about some of your work you've been doing around Taproot Activation. And obviously this is come quite some way, and hopefully it's looking like it's pretty close to being signaled. But I'd like to chat a little bit about your process and what it was like for you. But first, of course, let's start with a little bit about yourself. Can you tell us a bit about your history in Bitcoin land?
Sure. I've been in Bitcoin for a while now. One of my startups I was working for in Amsterdam was acquired by Bitmain. It was called Blocktrail. We rebranded to BTC.com, so I'm co-founder of BTC.com. I built that out for 3 years. We became the largest Bitcoin mining pool for 2 years in a row. We also had a pretty successful wallet, and that I left that a couple years ago to join the same team that co-founded BTC.com. Now part of it's called Poolin now. That's what the new company is called. I joined them, Poolin. We're the second largest mining pool in the world. We provide also a bunch of mining synthetics and whatnot. So I've been in total about 5 years in the mining space.
So 5 years in the mining space is a long time, especially because 1 year in Bitcoin land is multiple years in normal land. Hey, and so I know you were helping to coordinate some of the Taproot activation, at least amongst miners. So can you tell us how that came about from your perspective?
Yes. Well, the whole idea was to. I mean, I was around when SegWit, with the whole SegWit debacle, Civil War. It was. I was working at Bitmain. Well, I mean, at BTC.com. I was working at BTC.com, which was owned by Bitmain. So I had a front row seat at of all the debates and all the vitriol and all the very upset feelings a lot of people had with each other. And what I remember, what I pinpointed in those days was that there was a very very clear lack of communication between all parties, and especially from the miners to the rest of the world. The reason being that most miners are based in well, in those days it was even more. Now it's less, but still a very substantial amount of miners are based mining farms, mining pools are based in China or from China, and the rest of the and a lot of the other ecosystem is not in China. So there's like aside from that issue or that situation of cultural differences and language barriers, location barriers, right? Location differences. There was also the added thing of the miners also being very, the miners in those days would never. They were just mining this coin that was called Bitcoin. They never thought they would have to do something in terms of upgrading anything, mining pool operators. So it was a new thing. So I saw how the communication caused a lot of issues. So I thought, let me just go ahead and jump the gun here, before any issues started arising. I wanted to quickly find out what the mining pool operators felt about Taproot. I felt I was in a good position because I've been working in the industry for many years, and most of the time it's been with Chinese mining pools. Oh no, well, all the time it's been with Chinese mining pools. So I know all the operators in China of all these mining pools. So I felt like I was in the right position to do this, and so I jumped the gun and I created TaprootActivation.com. I asked them all, and I was highly not surprised, but I was very happy to find out that more than 90% of all the mining pools were willing and down to upgrade to Taproot, and that took me that took me actually went quite quickly, which was also quite surprising. Most mining pools, all the large mining pools were aware of Taproot. They knew what it was, at least like the main operators of these pools. So it was not too difficult to explain. I just had to basically ask them, and yeah, it was very happy experience. Yeah.
Great. So let me replace some of that and just add a little bit of a historical context for the newer listeners. So in 2017, we had the culmination of a multi-year civil war, so to speak, or a little internal debate within the Bitcoin world. And as you were saying, there were different tensions that led to that, right? As you were saying, some of it was language difficulty, some of it was, not really having a clear way, because again, Bitcoin has no king or CEO. It's all about people voluntarily agreeing things or doing things on the network, and that's basically how things are done in the Bitcoin network. And so, then what happened is now with this next soft fork, the Taproot soft fork, I think some of the developers were maybe they felt like they were in a position where they had done what they could, but now they didn't want to be unilaterally deciding on behalf of all the users, all the miners, and everyone in the network. And so it had reached that point, and I think it was actually quite a useful thing that you did there to go around and actually start communicating with the miners and actually pull that together. So can you tell us a little bit around the timeline then at the time you set up the taprootactivation.com website? Like what time was that? Yeah.
Right. So I started the website in November. I started the website in November of last year. It took me about a month of work to gather all the mining pools. I mean, not at least all the major mining pools and mid-sized mining pools to answer. Not only was it Chinese mining pools, but also Western or European, American pools. Also answered Russian pools. Um, It took about a month. It was, like I said, quite quick. That actually, I hope that brought a lot of attention towards Taproot, and I think that then led to discussions on how to actually activate.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so I recall in that prior 2015, 16, 17, there was some debate and discussion around things that were unknown to the rest of the world. So these were some of the things that were happening in the mining world, like the whole ASIC boost thing, or some of the discussion about, would it be against the miners' incentive to support SegWit because that might help enable Lightning, and would that take away mining fee revenue, or would that just be seen like a short-term pain for long-term gain aspect? Were there any concerns similar to that this time around with Taproot, or was that mostly seen as like this is an upgrade for the network, nobody's really losing, it's a win-win-win all round, we're just going to support it? What was the view?
That was exactly, yeah, that's exactly the view. Everyone seemed to be down with Taproot. It's a privacy enhanced, it upgrades in privacy. Essentially, it's a non-contentious software from what I gathered from the mining pool operators at the very least. I'm speaking about the mining pool operators, of course. No one seems to have an issue with it. So yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. And now I think there was also some discussion around and this was perhaps more in the Bitcoin developer community, which, you can see on the mailing list or on IRC discussions, where essentially there were debates had about what is the correct way to activate this thing. Because there were some debates and some arguments being presented that doing this in a forceful way, if you will, or in a way where the users are just unilaterally deciding and not having the miner signaling approach, that that this was being coercing against the miners or not. In your view, I guess in your view professionally, and also in your interactions with other mining pool operators and other miners, what was the view there? Was that seen as being like a coercive thing, or was it just seen more like was there a different view there?
That's a good question. I think the SegWit debacle had a very traumatic experience for everyone that was involved in that situation and that upgrade. A lot of people still have kind of remember some bad memories of what happened in those days. And then in SegWit days, some miners acted perhaps not in the best way. Some would even say malicious, or miners in those days had different interests. So that was the whole reason why user activated soft forks, or UASF was a very good way to upgrade in that day. So those feelings were still around, but the whole idea was to actually kind of heal those wounds, so to speak. I think going through a miner activated software is an elegant way, especially for a non-contentious software. So I did not even for me. That's why I really pushed forward for Taproot for the answers very early on, before any of the real discussions started occurring, because I wanted to avoid any of this political stuff to start seeping into the conversation. I just wanted to quickly ask, look, this is an upgrade this is called Taproot. They were like, oh, miners knew about it, and look, do you guys want to upgrade? Yes or no? Yes. Boom. That's it. That was kind of the whole entire idea. I wanted to quickly move forward before any of this political situation started seeping in. So I did not even mention anything about user activated softworks or anything like that. I still think it's a very elegant way to move forward with miner activated softworks. And so, yes.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So moving on then. So there was some discussion then around which method would be used also. So there was a discussion around median time passed and also block height. Did you have any thoughts on that particular approach, or did that didn't really matter to you from your perspective?
From my perspective, it didn't really matter. For me, the more important thing was, these were just kind of like some snippets at the end of the conversation. It was not very interesting for me. For me, it was all about getting the miners to signal so we can just activate it through the miners, a miner activated software. I don't really care if it's MTP or block height. It's fine either way.
Gotcha. Yeah. And also the discussion around alternate clients, as there was an an alternate client released called Bitcoin with Taproot. Now, I guess maybe I'm phrasing that or framing that in an unfair way, because maybe there is no official Bitcoin software. It's always, don't trust, verify. So to be clear, there's the Bitcoin Core supported release, and then there was another release called the Bitcoin Taproot. I think was the name they were giving it. Did you have any perspectives around that, or is it similar from your point of view? It's just whatever way we need to get this thing activated using speedy trial is good enough.
Well, yeah, I mean that's my general point of view, but I still think it's not. There's nothing wrong with other clients coming into play. I don't see it as being wrong or bad at all. I think it's good that other players in the ecosystem want to go ahead and provide an alternative client for anything. It's the whole beauty of this whole system, right? There's always a possibility of a different client. If something doesn't work, this we can try this something else. Of course, if we reach a consensus to do that, of course. So no, again, I was pretty confident after doing the taprootactivation.com survey or consensus effort survey. So I was not very focused on none of these other things, but nonetheless, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it was great. I think it's great, and the goal of these other guys or all other alternative clients was to upgrade Taproot. So their goal was the same as mine. So how can I be upset with that?
Gotcha. Yeah. And I guess another interesting question might be, because the group who have created the Bitcoin Taproot client, I think it could arguably be said they wanted something closer to the BIP8 lot equals true approach. And so for listeners, you can check out my earlier episode with Luke Dasher. I think he represents that view. I wonder, is it, well, and I don't know if you know this or not, but would you know if the existence of this kind of lot equals true client out there applies some pressure to mining pools to say, hey, if you don't support this, well, it's coming anyway?
That's the kind of viewpoint of Luke, I believe. And I guess I can see his point of view. I can understand what he said, what he means there. I mean, but I don't know if I can't give you a good answer, because I don't know if mining pools like saw this alternative client and thought, oh, we need to do it fast because there's this. I don't think we ever got to that point where that was ever. I don't think we got to that point. So perhaps if we in the future, if there's another scenario and we get to that point, perhaps that would cause them or lead mining pool or miners to push the upgrade quicker or whatever. But in this particular situation, I don't think mining pool operators even knew about it. But again, it's still okay for them to do, for Luke to do, or anyone, any of the listeners can do anything they want in Bitcoin. That's the beauty of it. So
right, yeah, of course. And I guess maybe an alternate view might be more like AJ Towns' view. Now, AJ is a Bitcoin developer, also a past guest on the show, and I think he did a blog post recently talking about his views on, summarizing some of this conversation around how to activate, how to move forward in Bitcoin. And perhaps the way he framed it was more like, look, just because a cavalry charge was what worked last time, that's not necessarily what has to happen this time, right? Hence, it seems that this time we've got, the miners on board here, so it's not really as much of a, maybe that's just not the right approach or the right way to frame it, and people are thinking of it like that kind of hero's journey, this small band of people, and blah, blah, you get what I'm saying, right? That maybe that's just not the right way to think about it this time.
Yeah, exactly. That's why after the Taproot activation effort, I knew that the miners were on board. From what they told me in private conversations. So I knew that approach, the other approach that worked in the last upgrade, was not necessary anymore. So right now, already more than 90% of all the largest mining pools have signaled for Taproot. Most of them are fully signaling. Some are still having some issues, but that approach was not necessary this time around. This time around, the approach that I guess I took was more adequate, just finding out quickly what they wanted and then coming out quick. Bitcoin Core really, really was I think phenomenal and coming out with speedy trial as soon as possible. That was the way to go. Quick, efficient. Yeah. So I think that for this particular situation, we didn't need that strategy. That strategy worked last time. It doesn't need to work every single time. It might work next time. It might not. Nonetheless, it's still it was a legitimate strategy last time around. But sometimes just working together is also fine.
Back to the show in a moment. CoinKite.com are the creators of the Cold Card, my favorite Bitcoin hardware wallet. You want a hardware wallet that has been locked down from a security perspective, and the Cold Card allows us to use it in a completely air-gapped way. We can ferry transactions back and forth using the SD card and connect it with popular wallets like Spectre or Sparrow or Electrum. Coldcard offers very high security at a relatively low price point, and they offer all sorts of features. They support PSBT, partially signed Bitcoin transactions, natively, and it can be used in a single signature setup or as part of a multi-sig setup. It's got all sorts of other features like an address explorer, so you can verify your receive address. Go to coinkite.com and use the code Livera for a discount. Unchained Capital are building Bitcoin native financial services on a foundation of multi-signature, so you can distribute the risk by having multiple hardware wallets and place them in different locations. So Unchained offer multi-sig vaults, which you can build on your own, or if you want the white glove treatment, they've got a concierge service where they will ship you to hardware wallets, they'll answer your questions and deposit $1,000 of Bitcoin in your vault. You can use the code Livera to get a discount there also. Unchained offer various other services such as their loans product, and they also offer an OTC desk in various states, and they also offer business accounts for those of you looking to move your corporate or business treasury to Bitcoin. So make sure you go and check out unchained.com. You can find a range of information there, like Parker Lewis's series, Gradually Then Suddenly, as well as information on how to get set up with a vault or an Unchained loan. CipherSafe.io are producing the Cipher Wheel product. So if you have a Bitcoin hardware wallet and you wrote down those 12 or 24 words, that's your BIP39 seed. But don't just rely on that piece of paper. Get a metal product to back that up and make sure that now you are not as worried about what happens if there's a fire at your place, if there's flooding. The Cipher Wheel comes in a wheel shape, and it actually masks the words of your seed as well, unless you open the padlock tamper-evident seal, and in that case you know it's been opened. So this way you can make sure that you or your loved ones have access to your Bitcoins if an accident occurs. Go and order your Cipher Wheel at CipherSafe.io and use the code Livera for discount. Back to the show. Yeah, right. And so with the speedy trial approach, the idea is to have this quick 3-month signaling period and have basically 2-week signaling periods. And we are, I think, just closing up the second one where we're not going to get it this time, but potentially if we get enough of the pools signaling in the next period, then we are going to have decided that. And I guess from your perspective, does speedy trial make sense, this idea of having a short 3-month period? Or did you find that mining pools had issues getting their software and their nodes working correctly to signal in that version bit? Was there an issue around that, or is that you think this is a reasonable way to get it done, and would it be useful in future?
I think well, actually, Poolin, the pool I work for, we did face some issues with the firmware. There was this one particular firmware that was being used by some particular machines. I can't speak too much about it because it's just one firmware that we saw this issue in, and I don't want to call them out, but basically they would be knocked off our pool, which would be a pretty significant amount of hash rate. So we worked around the clock. The Poolin team actually helped the firmware team to fix that, and now we're fully signaling. I assume some other pools probably face something similar. Of course, the mining pool business is extremely competitive, so we don't really share a lot of what's going on internally with each other's backends or whatnot. But I assume that's what happened with some other pools. I do know that node softwares, people have like custom nodes. Mining pools or mining operators, mining farms have custom node software that perhaps did not have the ability to signal, which would then knock them off as well, or would knock the block, would knock the signaling ability off the block. So of the block header. So yeah. there was some issues with this type of signaling. I guess there could be another way to do it, but the one thing I want to add is that you know soft fork upgrades don't occur very often, right? The last time was 4 years ago, SegWit. So you can't really blame these firmware teams about forgetting about this particular small subset. This is something that doesn't happen often. So it's just some normal bumps along the way to get towards the upgrade. Another added thing I want to always say is that the signaling started exactly the same exact day as like a national holiday started in China. China, this is like the second most important holiday in China after the New Year's. So it was very, very interesting that the signaling started exactly the same day. All the teams, the firmware team was in vacation, all the mining pool operators were on vacation, mining farm operators were on vacation. Everyone was on their day off or a holiday. So it was kind of a little bit of a slow start in the very beginning, but yeah, I think all major pools except BTC.com, which is kind of ironic because I'm the co-founder of that mining pool, which is very ironic, I think, personally. But nonetheless, all the other pools, yeah, all the other pools are signaling fully. So I do really think that the next difficulty adjustment epoch will lock in Taproot for activation in November, which turns out to be the same time that the Bitcoin conference in Miami, Bitcoin 2021, is going on, which will be great because everyone's going to be in a very good, very happy mood.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't matter what the price is doing. It's if we're getting Taproot locked in, well, that's going to be bullish long term for Bitcoin with all the new technology and potential future soft forks that we can get out of that. I had a quick question around the mining firmware question as well. So again, not singling out that particular manufacturer, but was there a difficulty there in terms of now, even if that firmware gets updated, then does that mean we're reliant on all of those individual mining pools, or those individual miners, rather, not the pools, going and updating their own machines in that case to then support the ability to signal? Or is that something that was fixed at a pool side, like on the pool end, creating the block template and so on?
No, that was relying on the mining farms themselves, which was kind of the reason why it took some days for everything to go through, because we had to update the firmware. Aside that everyone was on holiday, we had to then upgrade the firmware, send it out, get everyone to upgrade. Of course, you need to keep in mind that mining farms operators have firmware. Have programs that update all their machines in one go, right? So they're not sitting there and going to every single 10,000 machine and clicking. But so it's not that difficult once they get the firmware. It's a quick update. But still, yes, we were reliant on mining farm operators to update. However, mining farm operators, we told them, look, you need to upgrade the firmware, otherwise you're going to get knocked off the pool. So the mining farm operator understands that he doesn't want to get knocked off they don't want to get knocked off the pool. So it's kind of you know that's the last thing they want. So they upgraded quickly enough.
Yeah, got it. And so just in terms of contacting them as well, because I know in the mining world, maybe for people who are not closely into it, not all the players in the mining world are identifiable, right? Because they could just be pointing their hash at your pool, right? I mean, you might not necessarily have an easy way to contact them.
Yeah, sometimes for example, we have anonymous miners, and many pools have that feature. So that's another added issue, another added challenge to that happened to us. Actually, we did have some miners that we were unable to contact because we had no contact information for them, that were knocked off. But these anonymous miners, once they find out that they've been knocked off, they're gonna find out what happened and they'll upgrade. So even though we weren't able to contact all of them, we did contact the main ones. Usually how it goes is that large mining farm operators do contact the mining pool company like Poolin. They do contact us because they want special. They want they're a big farm, so they want special deals like lower fees. They want custom support. they want private nodes or whatever. There's a whole. They even want us to send them a shirt, whatever it is. They could they could be anything.
Yeah.
So they have a relationship with us, but the smaller anonymous guys, sometimes they're bigger guys, but sometimes they're big, the anonymous miners, but usually it's not very large. But as soon as they get knocked off again, they're gonna find out what's up.
Yeah. And so I think the other interesting aspect here is the competitive part, right? So in some ways, as you were saying before, you are trying to coordinate this upgrade to the network in a voluntary way, but at the same time, you're interfacing with competitors, and there's some competitive pressure here too, because let's say you want to do the upgrade and you end up having to knock some of your customers off, then were you worried that those customers might just say, oh, fuck Taproot, I'm just going to go to some other pool that doesn't want to signal Taproot? Were you worried about that kind of thing? And would that have a competitive impact to the bottom line of Poolin?
That's a good question. I think that it actually goes down towards another point, which is miners do have ultimately the choice to point their hash rate to this pool or that pool. It's kind of I call it a UASF inside a MASF.
Yeah.
So that also kind of boils down to like some people claiming that some pools lost some hash rate because they weren't signaling. Nonetheless, it is like the overwhelming majority of people felt that Taproot is a good upgrade. There's good feelings. Everyone understands that if we upgrade Bitcoin with Taproot long term, it's a good thing for Bitcoin. So all competitors, when listen, you and listeners need to keep in mind that Bitcoin feeds us, right? It gives us our business. It is what we do. It is everything. Most of us, like myself, are hardcore Bitcoiners, and we love this. But it pays the bills. So we understand that if we can upgrade and are always looking forward or always looking towards bringing the best towards Bitcoin, because it's going to ultimately help us and help our business. So that's with that in mind, I approached all the mining pools, and even though we're competitors, the overarching upgrade to what powers our businesses is stronger than our competitive nature. So we work together in this particular situation, and that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, it's good that everyone has some skin in this game, and that we all want Bitcoin to be more valuable, because that's going to pump all of our bags, right? So that's a cool thing. So in terms of then getting this over the line, so as we speak today, I'm looking at taproot.watch, which is a website that shows the recent blocks, whether they are signaling for Taproot or not, and the percentage hash rate. So as we speak today, it says the current total is about just under 86%, but the potential is 95.6%. And I think the only reason that's falling down, as you mentioned earlier, is the inconsistent signaling. So that's actually might be down to btc.com, as you mentioned, because they are the pool who's not consistently signaling. But presuming they are able to sort that part out, then if they are able to sort this out in the next period, then basically we're very, very high likelihood of getting this locked in, right?
Yeah, and I really suggest, if there's anyone from BTC.com listening to me, and I will tell them this myself, and I have told them this myself, but I will remind them that if they're in the next difficulty epoch, that everyone is fully signaling, and they're the only ones not signaling, which will call, if that is the reason why the upgrade fails for the next difficulty adjustment epoch, then that's going to look very bad for them. It's a very bad PR, very bad marketing. That's not gonna cause them any favors with the miners that are currently using BTC.com mining pool, for sure. So it really is now. It's really in their interest to just fix that as soon as possible, so we can get this things locked in and move on to the next step.
Excellent. Well, yeah. Let's see if what happens there, and I presume then, let's say it doesn't happen for the next signaling period. Well, then maybe miners will start pointing their hash power elsewhere to one of the other pools, and so that could also be a competitive impact there on them also.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I was saying about this mini UASF inside the MASF. The miners do have a choice to switch around pools that are signaling. In this case, for Taproot, it's the choice is theirs too. So it's not it's kind of a UASF, but inside the mining pools nowadays. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we'll see. And I think that's one of those things where, again, when people are new, they don't understand there's a difference between a miner and a pool, and they're not necessarily the same thing, right? So that's something to understand there. And so, thoughts on how future soft forks could go down? Do you think this is a sustainable kind of approach that could be used for future soft forks? Examples could be Any Prev Out by Christian Decker and AJ Towns has contributed to that too, or potentially the Great Consensus soft fork cleanup, or there are other ideas out there. Do you believe this is the way that future soft forks could be coordinated?
Yes, I do think definitely a good strategy for future soft forks. Yes, I do. Of course, I think this strategy in itself, or this way that we've done it with speedy trial and asking the miners and mining pools and whatnot, I guess we've it's only been battle tested. I mean, I'm pretty confident it's going to work, and I hope it will. But I think this particular way of upgrading Bitcoin through soft fork, perhaps it only works for a non-contentious upgrade. Like Taproot is. So I don't know. I can't give you an answer for something that might be contentious. But if it's a non-contentious upgrade, I don't see why not try the same exact thing we've done this time around.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see, and hopefully, well, I'm personally I'm hoping we get Any Prev Out because that will then enable L2, which is a more advanced form of the Lightning Network. But I guess I wonder because Taproot has been spoken about for years and years and years, and by now, basically, there's been no serious objection to it. Everyone agrees with it. Yeah, I wonder what would happen if it were a soft fork that maybe, even if it was, let's say, not a contentious upgrade, but just not that many people were going to shout and scream and try and get it happening. What would happen in that case?
Yeah, I wonder what I wonder. There's so many. It's a very difficult task to upgrade a decentralized financial tool, freedom tool, in my opinion. That is Bitcoin. It's not an easy task. There's so many different players, so many different interests, so many different points of views, cultures, whatnot. It's no easy task, and we're figuring it out as we go along. There's very smart people working on this right now, and anyone can actually participate in this discussion and this debate. That's another beauty of this system. You can do it yourself. You can do things yourself. You don't need to ask for permission from anyone. That's the beauty of Bitcoin, and I am confident that Bitcoin. I'm an optimist, and I think Bitcoin will. Well, I already think it is successful, but I think it will continue to be successful into the future. And my part with Taproot, whatever small it may be, it's an honor for me to be able to help in this particular situation with what little I can to impulse this project forward into the future.
Yeah, well, I certainly think it's a great thing you did with the taprootactivation.com website. And I think from what I can see, that was used in discussions to try to say, hey, look, it looks like we've got 90% of the miners on board here. We can try this approach. So I think it certainly helped. I'm also curious to your thoughts on this idea that maybe, and we don't know what the future holds, but could it be that in the future, not all the pools are easily identifiable or easy to communicate with? Or do you actually think, no, there is an incentive for every large pool to have, let's call it a front desk or someone to talk to or pick up the phone because they want to be able to, do sales and they want to get miners to point their hash rate to them? What's your view there? Do you think pools will still be easily identifiable into the future, 5 or 10 years from now?
Wow, that's a very good question. I don't know what the future holds, but there's a lot of bumpy road ahead. We have pools now like doing censorship of transactions. not including non-OFAC blocks or non-compliant transactions. There's a whole bunch of new stuff that's being tried. There's also the trend of hash rate leaving China. I think 30% of the hash rate will leave China by end of this year or beginning of next year. So that's going to also change the whole game, because if a lot of the hash rate is, let's say, in North America, then it's going to be much larger pools in North America, which will then have their own set of rules and whatnot. So I don't think it's the next time we touch upon a soft fork upgrade with, we're trying to do a minor activated soft fork again, if we do get to that point, I don't think the space will be the same at all. I think the hash rate will be more, I guess, decentralized. Well, it's it's distributed across the world. So that's good. That's a very good thing, in my opinion. And I don't know, because some pools might not want to play the game, play by the rules. There's also national mining pools coming into play. Yeah, I think Iran is trying to do that. I've heard of Kazakhstan trying to do that as well. I don't know. There's also Uzbekistan that was trying to do that. Pakistan is also trying to do a national mining pool, or I'm not too sure about that. But so there's going to be also national mining pools. So it's definitely not going to be the same. And I don't I you know if there is, let's just focus on the national mining pools. If there are national mining pools and there's a soft fork coming into play, I'm sure the national mining pools will have geopolitical intentions far, far above than upgrading Bitcoin. Like, I think they will not want to coordinate with, I guess, enemy of their country or whatever. So who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Bitcoin is here to stay. It's the real deal. It's the real deal. Today, the whole entire FUD that was going on, even the Pope was talking about Bitcoin mining. Can you believe that? Me, when I started in 2013, I never thought I would hear the Pope discuss or mention something about Bitcoin. In my opinion, it's very bullish. I think Bitcoin is the real deal. I don't. Otherwise, all these large nations, religious leaders will not be talking about it. So it's definitely gonna heat up a little bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it, because if large countries start their own mining pools, and there's a USA pool and a whatever Kazakhstan pool and a Pakistan pool, then coordinating upgrades at that point might not really be feasible, as in with via the mining pools, and then maybe it actually does go back to a UASF approach in the future. Who knows,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I guess another idea would be that if there's a lot more people who are solo mining or unidentifiable hash rate growing over time, do you have any thoughts on that idea? Because right now the pools put it in that block and say, this was my block. But let's say there was a growth in the unidentified hash rate. What happens in that scenario? Or do you just think it's unlikely?
Well, I mean, there is already about 2.5% of the Bitcoin network is an unidentified hash rate. They could be private pools from big players. They could be actually solo miners, huge. There must be, I know of a handful over the years of solo mine in this ecosystem requires a very, very large mining farm, like something out of this world type of mining farm. But they exist. So yeah, I guess I get that's actually quite interesting, because perhaps if some miners do not want to mine on this particular nation's national mining pool because it's required for them to do so, they might not want to. So they might just band together and create their own little mining pool or smaller mining pool to mine and forego any national mining pool requirements. That's something that can be done for sure. Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm sure that's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, and also another idea there is just going back to the national pools idea. Depending on the way the political conversations are going, that might also impact which upgrades can be brought into Bitcoin, right? So it might be, I mean, who knows? But if there was some upgrade that was going to bring a lot more privacy to Bitcoin, and let's say some governments don't like that, or that might also become harder to coordinate through the mining side. But again, this is, we don't know exactly what will happen with that. But I also wanted to ask your thoughts on this whole China bans Bitcoin mining. I mean, obviously, this is anyone who's been around Bitcoin for any serious amount of time. We've seen this movie before
many
but
times.
at least this current round of it. Can you tell us what happens next in the movie, Alejandro?
Nothing happens. It's all. I don't know how many times I've seen China ban Bitcoin throughout my time in Bitcoin. It's unbelievable. It's every single year. It's insane. And yet we have 60% of all the mining going on in China. The only real difference this time, I guess, and this is me, this news came out this morning, so there might be clarifications later down the week or throughout the time in the future. But the only real difference is that it's a higher up in the Chinese government that spoke about it. But it was only the document that came out was only a summary, was not even written by him. It's not a formal document by anyone. So it's very early to say. It is kind of, for me. It's already looks to me very suspicious that it's not a formal document. That it's just a summary of the talks. Yes, it was higher up, but not that doesn't mean that document literally doesn't mean anything. They just had a conversation about it in essence. The only real news is that that this time around it was higher up in the government. That's the real news here. What that's going to happen is unclear. This is I can speak about it from Poolin's side. We're unclear what's going to happen, but in my opinion, I think it's already very suspicious that it's not not from. It's not a formal document. However, I do think the trend of hash rate moving outside of China will continue. I think what it might actually boil down to be is China wants to lower the amount of fossil fuel usage in their country because it makes sense. It does not only make sense for the country of China and the Chinese people, but it makes sense for the rest of the globe. So that's good in my opinion. And they might. This is pure speculation from my end, right? But I think they might clamp down on mining using heavy fossil fuels, which already is not too much in China. Most of it, or I think more than half of it, is already using hydroelectric power plants or other green sources. So, but that percent, those miners that will have to move, I don't think there's enough space for them in China, or I think they will move out of China. And I think that trend is already starting. You're gonna see a lot of news coming up about Chinese mining farms buying land or doing joint ventures with American mining farms and American mining power producers or whatever.
Yeah, interesting. So this has been a common criticism that, there's so much hash rate in China, and there was that natural experiment recently where a lot of the hash rate went offline, and some people were trying to infer that actually based on the amount of hash rate that went down, that I think they were estimating that the amount of hash of Bitcoin's total hash power, it was something like 40% or so in the China region. What's your view on that? Do you agree or disagree? Do you think it's higher than that number? You said about 60% in your view?
Yeah, I think it's around 60%. Well, it was less. Yeah, I think it's around 65% of the whole entire hash rate is still coming from China. That blackout that happened, or that something some transformer blew up. I'm not too sure what happened. Some power plant blew up, and then the Chinese government, decided to do sort of, or the local government there decided to check all the other mining farms for fire safety. So there was like a 20%. I think it was around. Actually, the real number was 17% of the total hash rate coming from China was turned off because of this incident. But I think around 30% of this 65% total will leave China in the next upcoming year.
Yeah, interesting. Hey, because that's been a common criticism, and it seems that now is the time that it might actually be distributing further out to the rest of the world. So as you said, more into perhaps North America is a likely situation there. Also, wondering your thoughts around the whole, because people are becoming more conscious about things like buying carbon offsets and things like that. Do you think that is going to be a common thing for miners?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a common thing. Yeah, I do think it's going to be common. The reality is that some of the mining occurs still in fossil fuel using fossil fuels, although it's less and less. But if there is that, then the carbon offsets could be a good option. And I think mining pools will start offering that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one as well, because even recently with, Elon Musk and all his Tesla, etc., talking about the, impact of Bitcoin mining, I wonder whether that's going to become a new angle where, Tesla is itself running on, basically receiving a lot of either subsidies or receiving the credits on the basis of the favorable regulation around that. And I wonder whether that's going to become the new grift in the Bitcoin world of, basically people who are trying to get those credit, something equivalent to that, but in the Bitcoin world. Do you see a scenario like that coming up?
Do you mean like government subsidies for miners that are offsetting their carbon?
Yeah, it could be that, or maybe it could be like a regulatory requirement that they do that, or it could be, and then who knows if maybe in the future that someone tries to come out with see, this is like the green mining thing, so therefore I should be receiving credits for this, whereas you, quote unquote, dirty fossil fuel miner, you have to pay me, kind of thing, or it ends up acting like a cross subsidy, right?
Yeah, I think that's sort of strategy. Those are all strategies that are going to be played out by mining pool operators and mining farm operators. It's a highly competitive market. Again, I think it's the most like legitimate or capitalistic industry out there. It's pure capitalism. That's a very good strategy to say that you're green, farm and get some subsidies in order to beat your competitor, even though you might be just offsetting it or whatnot. Yeah, I think these type of scenarios are coming or already are sort of already happening. They're just building up right now.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, just anything going on with Poolin? What's the latest with Poolin?
We have a very low fees for miners. We have nodes across the globe. We have many years of experience with large mining farm operators. So if you're listening in and you're a farmer, we can take care of you. And we have synthetic mining called Mars project, which is synthetic Bitcoin hashing, synthetic Bitcoin mining, and synthetic Ethereum mining. Very easy to jump into. We were the first ones to come out with this sort of tokenized hash rate protocol, and it's doing very well. So if you're interested in that, please go to poolin.com or reach out to me.
Excellent. Well, yeah, Alejandro, any final thoughts for the listeners there just around upgrading on Bitcoin?
I think if any of the listeners are just normal operators, normal users. I've gotten this question many times. You don't have to worry about upgrading your wallet or anything wrong with your Bitcoin. You can still send and receive Bitcoin. Taproot, you're unaffected by the upgrade. The only way you're affected is that it's just going to become more private and it's going to become a better Bitcoin. So don't worry about that. And I hope everyone listening here gets some sort of inspiration to not only just buy the coin and hope that it goes up, but also build. And this is a great industry to participate in. And I think there's a lot of opportunities here. So building is also a very good way to move forward.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much for joining me, Alejandro.
Thank you, Stephen.
So let me know what you think. Do you think we're going to get Taproot locked in the next signaling period? Find the show notes at stephanlivera.com/277, and I will see you in the Citadels.